Well, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do this cool glam look using a bunch of different palettes, and I am so excited to share this with you. Let's get started. So these are the players. We've got Tom Ford Moonlit Violet on the upper left, Bobbi Brown Luxe Gems palette on the upper right, and on the lower left we have Tom Ford Double Indemnity, and we're going to use just a hint of Cleona's Cathedral. Now that shade looks brown on the bottom right, but it's actually a pastel, and it's got just a very subtle sort of pink purple olive shift to it. So let's just go back and discuss the Tom Ford Double Indemnity palette, because that is such an underutilized champion, and I want to tell you why. Because number one, it's a standalone palette or a companion palette. I mean, that has everything you need. It's got the highlight, it's got the brown, and that is an incredible brown, very pigmented, and it's got that dark kind of charcoal gunmetal, which can also kind of function as a black, like a sparkly black tie black. And while we're not using that shade number 2, that is a fantastic shade. It's beautiful. It's sort of a silvery sage. But if you are a Tom Ford fan and you want to keep your investments to a minimum, this is definitely a palette to check out. So, all right, moving on. So we're going to start out with the Rephr number 15 brush, and we are going to dive into this Bijou. This is the lightest shade in this palette. This is a very, very light shade for very fair skin tones. I think if you have anything even remotely deeper than my skin tone, you really won't notice this. I did actually enjoy this more than I thought I would, but its uses are limited, so I'll just say that. You might be able to mix it with Ultra Velvet, which I haven't done yet, but I did enjoy it. But you can use any cool shade, any transition that suits your skin. As with all my videos, you can take from your collection products and things that you have that you enjoy and like using. So we're going to go into now Double Indemnity. We're going to go into that number 1 that just, it's a very finely milled, kind of a very simple, shimmery, kind of off-white shade, but it's a very light shade, and it's definitely got the sparkle in it. It's definitely got that sparkle factor, which is perfect for a highlight. Such a great shade. Yeah, this palette is so wonderful. I mean, you can dive into it for any shades that you want, and I do dive into this for just that shade alone. And I'm going to blend it out with Bijou, that shade that we just used, that transition. I'm going to blend those two together. You really don't have to highlight that inner part of your brow, because you kind of want where the sunlight hits, which is on the actual brow bone, which is on the outside. So now we're going to use, in Moonlit Violet, we're going to use shade number 1 on this Sonia G blender, Jumbo Blender, which is my new favorite brush, and I will tell you why. We're going to use this wet because I love these Tom Ford shadows. This wet dry formula is out of control. And as you can see, the pigmentation is incredible. Look at that sheen. It does have sort of a violet-y, it's sort of a taupe violet. It's not as lavender as the shade next to it in the palette, number 2, but that is an incredible shade. You also don't have to take it into the inner corner as far as I do, but you know me, I like to use all the real estate I can. And what's so amazing about this brush is, number 1, it's large, and you can cover a lot of ground very easily. It picks up. It's incredible. Yeah, that's just a beautiful shade. And these Tom Ford Wet Dry, they do not crease. They will be as beautiful at night as they were when you put them on in the morning. I cannot say enough about them. And now we're blending. And so we're gonna, I'm gonna use, I think this shade is Sunstone, yes. So it just has a bit of sparkle. There is a base to it, but it has a very refined, elegant sparkle. And so I'm using that on my finger just on the inner corner and maybe applying it a little bit on the inner third. And when I'm done doing this, I'm gonna put it in slow-mo so you can kind of appreciate that. I mean, look at that sparkle. Just very, very refined. We like to call this adult glitter. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a great compliment to this look. Okay, so now we're going to use number 3 from the Moonlit Violet. I'm using the other side of this brush. So this is like 2 brushes in one. I mean, I just felt like that was such a bonus. This was the first time I'd used this brush, and I was in love. And I think that is a great cool tone shade. It kind of reminds me of, while I don't have it, it kind of reminds me of Rover from Sydney Grace, but it seems like it's in that category. Just kind of a taupey gray with incredible pigment and just darkening that outer third. Yeah, I loved this brush. This Sonia G blender, this is was a new addition, and props, definite props. So now I'm gonna just turn the brush over and blend those two because I had product from number 1 on the other side. So it's great. And now I'm blending, and I'm going back with Bijou and gonna blend that because I got a little of that dark taupey shade there, so in the crease. So I want to blend that into Bijou and that highlight, sort of soften everything up. You could stop there. I mean, this could be your look right there. It really could. A little bit on the lash line and you're good to go. So I'm adding a little more of that number 3. Because sometimes, you know, I always say sometimes when you blend it out, you got to add it back in. Now I'm going to use Black Pearl, which is a beautiful shade. And I'm going to use my favorite trusty Look New York crease brush. Now, you really could have just used number 3 from Moonlit Violet. It was not necessarily to dip into a new shade, but I had never used it before, so you know me, I like to play. And this is definite sparkle to it, and I think it complemented this look beautifully. It's maybe a little bit cooler than the one from Moonlit Violet, but that's a great shade. And now we're gonna go and use this Rockin' Republic Smudge Shader Liner. And here we go with Crazy Eyes. I'm gonna use my Makeup Forever and my Inglot Duraline, my favorite combination to get a very dark waterline. You're gonna dry off your waterline with your fingertips. And then I like to just mix these two together a little bit. I don't necessarily make a paste, although you could do that. I just put I just dip the brush directly into the Duraline and then directly into the Makeup Forever. And I kind of swirl it around to get the consistency I want. But I love that black waterline. I think it just adds such a degree of drama, and I think it just always makes every eye look beautiful. But it is a lot of work, and again, this isn't for everybody. Definitely have to have some patience. And it's okay if you smudge it a little bit, because I'm going over with eyeliner anyways. Get that inner corner. Just fill in that area. I couldn't deprive you of this footage anyways because of the crazy eyes. It's so ridiculous. The eyes we make when we put our makeup on. Okay, we're ready to go. Now we're gonna mix shades 3 and 4. I think I probably couldn't decide which one to do. We're going to use the Rephr 13. So we're going to get a little brown and a little of that kind of black tie gunmetal shade in there. And I'm using it wet. You don't have to use these shades wet. That's what part of the beauty of this Tom Ford formula, specifically this wet dry. But look at that. I mean, that's great pigment. I put some little water drops, dip my brush in the water drops, and then I dip it into the product. And you can see, even though it's wet, it's still gonna, just barely wet, it's moist. It's gonna just really pack a punch. Look how easy that is. Just in the outer corner, yeah, it was beautiful. That outer third, I'm going to go a little bit into my crease, a little bit above the crease, and blend that in with the lower lash line. Mixing that and, yep. Adding that closer to the waterline and just darkening up where I need to, above the crease so you can see it a little bit better. I like to keep things above the crease a little bit because obviously when you open your eyes, sometimes you miss it. So it's nice to go just above the crease. And now I'm going to go back in with Bijou and the brush from Bijou and blend it all in. So you apply and then you blend, apply and blend until you get the depth that you want. And those those shadows, they blend out so beautifully, wet or dry. And I'm adding a little bit. There's nothing even new on the brush. I'm just using what's left on the brush to soften that. And now we're going to use this Real Techniques. This is the Bold Metals Angled Liner 202 brush. This is one of my favorite liner brushes. And we're going to use my favorite MAC Chromaline with Inglot. Again, you do not need the Inglot for this, but I like creamy, so I use just a hint of it. And I'm not getting a really thick line. I usually don't do the world's thickest line. And you can turn the brush around a little bit and get a little flick out there. But I'm getting right as close as I can to the lash line. That's one of the most important things, is to make sure you don't have any voids at the lash line. Thank you, camera. We love when you do that. She'll come back. She always does. There we go. Yeah, you can see some voids there that I'm filling in right at that lash line. And just flick that out a little bit. Yep. Just extend the eye a little bit. And just darken a little bit on the lower. There's no new product really on there. So that's kind of blending and adding at the same time. That brush is actually, I lied. That brush is actually, well, okay, we'll go back into it in a second. We're gonna go in with the Wayne Goss number 8 brush. This is one of my favorite brushes ever. It's the world's tiniest, cutest brush, and I'm gonna mix number 3 and 4 of Double Indemnity, and I'm gonna put that right on top of, I'm gonna say above, not on top, above that liner to soften it. That was the Rockin' Republic brush, not the Bold Metals Real Techniques brush. So I'm going to correct that right now. So you can even see some of that sparkle on there from number 4. But this just softens it, and you don't have to do this if you like a you know, sort of a more angled line. But I always like to soften it. But if you like those harsh lines, or it doesn't bother you, you don't have to do this. And then I take that brush vertical, because it's big enough to take it vertical, and that way I can kind of blend everything. I might have blended it too much. So sometimes if I blend it too much, this is the Hourglass. I think it's like the 1.5 mechanical eyeliner, and it is the most fine tip ever. So it's really good for getting really close to the lash line. Okay, I'm just introducing you to this product. This Half Magic Flick liquid liner. Look at that. I know it looks crazy, and I'm not really using it to its full capacity, but I wanted to crisp up that line there, and this is kind of the product. You can see it's like a disc, but it's amazing. We're going to touch on that again later and in future videos. Okay, now we're going to use Cathedral with this is my favorite pencil brush, the Z10, the Chikuhodo Z10. Now, this looks like a brown, but it's not. This is not a dark brown. See, it's a pastel. It's just like a pinky, taupey, purpley shadow. And I just wanted a little fun down there. I always like to do something fun in the inner corner of the lower lash line. And we're going to go in with our first layer of mascara. You can use whatever you want. I like to use just sort of a mascara that I don't need to get really big lashes with for the first coat. I'm just getting in there. Okay, so we're going back in with this product. I'm getting like just kind of a V-notch there because it extends almost like a cat eye on that inner corner. And this makes it so easy. You have to check out this product. And you can do an incredibly easy winged liner with any kind of liner. This could be your man. I mean, that's a fun product. And now we're going to go in with my favorite. This is my MAC Stippling 130 Duo Fiber Brush. And we're going to use this with Shiseido Sonoya Whipped Blush. This is a great coral blush. I love the consistency of this. And I love to do warm blushes with cool eye looks. You don't have to, but I've always sort of gone down that road instead of a pink. But you could do whatever you want. And on the inner corner, you can definitely see that Cathedral. And I really go to town with my blush because I feel like it melds into the skin very easily. And that brush is beautiful. That brush is made for that product. We're going to go in with the Sonia G Sculpt 3 fan brush now for our highlight, and we are going to use MAC Soft and Gentle, which is kind of a trusty favorite of mine. I think this is a great highlight. Yeah, it is really soft and gentle, so it lives up to the name. This brush, while I do love it, it's not a necessity, but it's a great brush. And we're going to use the Sephora Outrageous Curl. This is a thicker, more voluptuous formula for lashes. So I like to use this a lot of times for my second coat. Really build those lashes up without having to put any false lashes on. And it separates and builds them up, and I think this is a great mascara. And now, so I like to go to town sometimes and mix my own lipsticks. So I mixed, I think it's Candy Yum Yum, MAC Speed Dial, and Modesty. And then I used the Natasha Denona My Dream lipstick, which is a lipstick in 11B, and I'm lining it with cork. And I'm going to use these Carla brushes. These lip brushes were a random investment, and they changed my life. See up there now, you can see the colors, the shades that I used. And I just think that they really help to add some fullness to your lips. They've never let me down, especially with deep shades. They make a huge difference. Plus you can really enhance your Cupid's bow in the middle. But I like to use these sometimes, and they always make a difference. The left side of my lips is a little bit asymmetric, so I like to kind of flesh that out. We're going to go back in and just kind of darken it with MAC cork. And then we're going to make it a little bit more subtle and buff that with the Wet n Wild 648. That's a very light liner, and it just softens any harsh edges of that cork lip liner. And that is it. Oh, I'm sure I add more blush. I know I do. Yep, because I always do. Just can never have enough blush. I feel like when you put your blush on by the time you leave your house, even if it's like a quality blush, it just makes a difference. And there we go. That is the final look for your ultimate cool tone glam everyday look. And you can substitute any products that you have in your own arsenal. And if you're inspired at all and you post these looks, please tag me in RGRP Inspo. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoy. And any comments, I would love to hear them. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye!